Rev up your engines!
Aaron, I'm so Scotty. What do you think about McLaren? If you have an endless amount of money to spend, get a McLaren. I've driven them, and they drive like scalded apes. Those are insane English sports cars. They cost a fortune, of course, and only rich boys can drive those things around. But they are really interesting design. Realize that all these Formula One cars, they're almost all designed by English people in England. It doesn't matter which companies they are. They hire these English engineers. My next door neighbor is English. She's from England. Her father had a giant mansion and owned a steel company. When they nationalized it, he lost that. Well, one of his sons is an engineer. He's English, but he's a Formula One engineer for Ferrari. So, the English are really good at designing stuff like that. They're really into race cars. Gary Schmidt says, Scotty, any opinions on first generation Miatas? The ones with the pop-up headlights. Just bought one with 205,000 miles. Any comments on them? Those were fun little sports cars. Now, hopefully you got one with a standard transmission. The automatic transmissions were garbage, and you got one with 205,000 miles. If it was an automatic, I'm sure it would shift horribly. It wouldn't run very good at all. It doesn't have much power. But the standard transmission ones, they were cute little sports cars. They could last a long time, and they're cheap to buy. They sold quite a few of them, and their resale values aren't particularly high because it'll never be a real collector's item like, a 67 Mustang or something. So you can get a good price on them, and the parts are still readily available for them. So, if it runs good, and especially if it's a standard transmission, you could have gotten a good deal on it. Just don't pay too much, of course, because it's an old Japanese sporty little car that never was worth all that much money. King Smurf said, Scotty, a 92 Dodge Stealth single overhead cam V6 5-speed, are they collectibles? Not really. The V6 engines are like, nobody wanted the V6 engines. People in the Dodge products, they either want the V8 engines, they want the big ones. They don't want the little bitty ones. Nobody's that interested in it. If you can get one cheap and drive it around, have some fun with it. But I don't think that will ever be a collector's item because with Dodge, everybody's thinking muscle cars. And the V6 engines, nobody gives about the V6 engines. They just didn't care about them, and they were never that popular with anybody. Everybody wanted the 8s, just like, you're going to get a Charger, a Challenger. Everybody wants to get a Hellcat with a V8 in it. They don't want the 6-cylinder engines. The 6-cylinder engines are okay, but they'll never be collector's items. Nobody really wants those. They want the 8s. Razor says, what's a good car to start with? A good car to start with, if you want something that's going to last, go to Craigslist and get an old Toyota Corolla or an old Camry. Doesn't matter if it's 25, 30 years old. If it still runs and goes good, it's a great car to start with because they were simple. They didn't break that much. Parts are available. And the parts are relatively cheap because now in all the Corollas and Camrys, you can get parts from China. And so there's plenty of cheap parts available that work perfectly good. That's a good starter car because everything's out there. You're not going to pay much for one. So if it gets wrecked and something goes wrong, take both of my sons. Both of them wrecked the first cars I got them. So you don't want to spend too much money on your first car because odds are you're probably going to wreck the thing. Robert Harris says, why are Honda Pilot transmissions so bad? Well, it's because it's Honda. Honda is not an automatic transmission company, but they make their own automatic transmissions. Now you take Nissan. Nissan owns the company that makes their transmissions, Jatco. Toyota, they own part of the company that makes their transmissions, Aisin. Aisin makes very good transmissions. That's one of the reasons Toyotas don't have problems. But Honda, for some reason, they decided to make their own automatic transmissions, and they were never that good at it. I don't know, they should have just bought them from somebody else, but they wanted to do the R&D and do it themselves, and they made a lot of horrible transmissions over ages, and since that's the Pilot, which is really the biggest thing that Honda makes, Honda was never into making really big things. So, of course, a big thing, the transmissions strain more, and they're going to have more problems with it. Just like their Honda Odyssey vans, they had transmission problems. That's one of their bigger vehicles, and their transmissions had problems up the wazoo. Hey, Kabaya says, I have a Dodge Durango, 2002. It stalls when I hit bumps or pothole. We changed the battery, spark plugs, and the TPS. We can't find the problem. Okay, hit bumps or pothole and it stalls. Something is knocking electricity loose. Check all the wiring connectors. Make sure that they're tight. Unplug them all. Look inside. If there's green, that's corrosion. And then you got to clean it off with spray electrical cleaner and put them back together again. Something electrical is probably shorting out. And on those, especially check the main computer. Where the main computer is, there's a huge wiring harness that clips in. Unclip it and look for green corrosion on it because they will often get them on those. And then when you hit a bump, that little bit of corrosion gets a little bit loose and then it shuts off. Somewhere something's either loose or corroded that's knocking power out to your car. And if you want to figure out what it is, pay a mechanic like me, put his high-level dealer scan tool on it, take it for road test over bumps, and when it dies, it memorizes that data and it will see what shut off. Then you'll know exactly where to use. That's how I figure out what's wrong with them when I get something like that.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.